who are here, this board, and everyone in this building that does the business of the county. Bless us, give us the wisdom to make the right decisions for Union County. Guide us and direct us. We appreciate this and pray in your name. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lance, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Toller?
Here.
Commissioner Foster is absent. Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Gould?
Having a quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda, we have regular board meeting minutes from October the 11th. Everybody had a chance to look at these. Any corrections or any questions? I'll say
Commissioner Pitts?
yes.
Commissioner Toller?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Public comments.
I do,
You do.
yeah. I finished the second distribution this week, and total amount of that we have received for both installments is $2,662,12.16. That's 94% of the taxes collected. And that's exactly what was projected for the budget, so we're right on budget.
Well, anything above that will be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I think that's a pretty good percentage.
Yeah.
And one will stay around 94%, and what you tell me, Angie, in the end, it ends up being about after the tax sale,
98%.
about 98%. That's pretty healthy, I think.
Yeah, very good.
And again, appreciate everybody's work and efforts on the taxes this year. We gained a month on them. Hopefully next year we're going to gain one more month, hopefully, to get us back to where we actually should be. But good job, everyone. Appreciate that. Committee reports.
I had a County Development Council meeting, and then it was their annual meeting related about their awards and things. So basically, that's what most of the meeting was. The little sheet always familiar with this. It gives all the details for the year and everything. If anybody'd like to look at this, I'll look at your own paper for anybody to see.
Anybody else? Building permits.
2. The first one is for parcel number 0507030046C, 2640 Old Highway 51 North in Cobden. It's for John and Carrie Barnett, a garage, no subdivision, no floodplain. 8840 State Route 146 West in Jonesboro for the Ware United Pentecostal Church. It's for a pole barn, previously subdivided. It is in a floodplain. The variance is attached, and it's recommended for approval.
Any questions or concerns? Get a motion to approve.
I'll make.
I'll second.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Under old business, image trend software contract with the ambulance service, that's still tabled right for now. I think maybe next meeting we may get that resolved, is that correct?
Yes, Grant couldn't be here today, so
Fiscal year 2020 budget discussions, again, I think, just to reiterate, last meeting, we decided to have this on the agenda every meeting until the new budget is done. I know you don't have a lot to report right now, but I mean,
yep, I have a few things, just working on it. Spent a lot of time this week trying to get the budget amendment ready, but I've made it through the general fund for the budget, and I've started on all the other funds that we also levy taxes for. So until I get through those funds, it's kind of hard to tell us where we're at, because if those funds need more money levied, then we're going to have to levy less for the general fund. So next week I'll probably begin working on the actual tax levy calculation. So I'll be getting some information from Tammy on new homes so that we can get through that. I also met with Crystal and got some call volume reports for 911, and I'm putting together some information so that I can discuss dispatch costs with 911 and with the city of Anna. I've reached out to both of them and let them know that I'm going to need to set up meetings with them in the near future so that we can talk about, I think Anna's contract is up at the end of October, actually, so we'll need to meet with them soon. And then as you'll get to later, we've settled with the FOP. Angela's working on the back pay for them so that way I can enter those into our projections for this year to figure out where we're going to come out at. So it's coming right along. Just don't have
I know you're putting
an
a lot
amount.
of
So
hours in on that, and I appreciate it. Obviously, our goal is to have the budget in place by December 1st,
yes,
and that's what we're working for, and you feel that we're on track for that, right?
yes, I do. The only thing I ask, and I think I mentioned it to you guys, is maybe keep your schedules open for the middle to end of November, because we may need to have some special meetings. So
We'll have to have several extra meetings that month, so, anyway, we'll get through it. Good deal. New business, paying the bills. Everybody had a chance to look at the bill list? Any questions or discussion? I get a motion to pay our bills then.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we're going to have the Regional Office of Education, their quarterly report of activity. Cheryl, welcome.
Good morning,
Good
and
morning.
thank you for allowing me to update. The first thing I want to do is, again, thank the citizens of Union County for the school facility tax. They will receive their first payment next month on November 5th. So the breakdown of it is the tax total itself was $84,348.99. So Anna Jonesboro High School is going to receive $16,819. Anna Elementary, $22,706. Cobden, $15,469. Dongola, $9,320. Jonesboro, $11,690. Lick Creek, $4,816. And Shawnee, $3,525. And so this, when we distribute this for this year, until December. We're using enrollment numbers from last year of October of 2018. We will get new enrollment numbers from them from October of 2019. Beginning January, we use those new numbers then to distribute for this whole year in 2020. So that's how we come up with the percentage of each one. So I'll leave this sheet with you. And if anybody wants to look at that later or have those percentages for those districts, that's how that's done. Some of our updates, we just completed our institute this year, and we did a little bit different. We did some specialization this year for some of our teachers that we had out there. So in Carbondale, we had it at 3 different sites. So we offered for our birth through pre-K to come together and work together, and they were at Unity Point School District. And then we brought our special education personnel together, since there's some new laws this year for special education. And they met at a facility close to the mall, and then we brought the rest of the teachers again this year to Carbondale High School. And so we'll have numbers of that at the next meeting on that. One of the things we're working with, of course, is still our teacher shortage. So we're working with SIU on a grant for Educators Rising, and this puts into our high school an Educator Rising club. So we're working with 7 different districts, but 2 of them in Union County are Cobden and Anna Jonesboro High School with that. So they give those students high school students an opportunity to work with young people and to also help maybe get them on a path that they maybe will consider going into education as a field. One of the things that we're working with is our community colleges to see if we can't do some dual credit, and that they already have 2 courses out of the way when they graduate high school, if they're really interested in going into education as a field. So we're still in the process of that's kind of early developments that we're working on that. Obviously, one of the issues with Shawnee school districts is the homeless this year with all of that went on with the flooding. So we're working with them on that. This is a new year to rewrite that homeless grant, and most of that is federal money, but we have preliminary approval and it's done as a region. So we still don't know our numbers on that, but we know districts have reached out to us and are needing some of that homeless money already. But as soon as that becomes available for us, we will assist them in that way. And we've been working with Shawnee also with some of the issues that they have. There are other issues, obviously the power plant too, so that's being appealed at this point. So we'll just have to wait for that to go through the court system and see what happens with that final evaluation.
How do you feel that's gonna,
I really don't know because they've had some opinion that maybe that first process that went through that, maybe it was done incorrectly. But until that goes through the court system, we really don't know how that's going to turn out. But so we're just hoping for the best for that. So that's all I have for my report this morning. So if you have any other questions for me,
Is the enrollment numbers in Union County staying about the same, or are they dropping a little or going up a little?
You know what, I haven't looked at them since, so their enrollments were due to the state by October 1st. They have now until October 31st to see if those are accurate before the final submission on November 1st for fall enrollment. So right now, fall enrollment and spring enrollment are pretty important to our districts because that's how evidence-based funding is determined now, is on enrollment. So they have a time to look and make sure that the state has that accurate. So then at the next meeting, I'll be able to tell you and compare those for you.
Very good. Appreciate
Any
your
other?
report as always. And
Well, I appreciate your time
your
that
job
you gave me.
and what you do.
Well, and we appreciate your support and the office that's provided for our districts down here also. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is bond refinance briefing. Just a brief explanation here. We've been working on this for several months. Kind of started out a negative as far as I was concerned at the time, because I didn't think there was much reason to do anything on it. But it's turned out much better. So John, you want to give us an update where we are? It's quite a process to get through all of this.
I think that'd be an understatement, Mr. Chairman.
I signed about 984 pieces of paper, I think.
Yep.
You missed one though.
Yeah. this
You
one.
missed one? We'll forgive you. I think your taxpayers will as well. again, John Dezzetti with Bernardi Securities, appreciate the opportunity to, be here and provide this briefing. It's not something we regularly do, but it is, this one in particular, has a little bit of sentimental value to me. Back in 2010, when these bonds were first issued, it was my very first bond issue. Just right out of college, I got thrown to Union County, and here we go, right? So 600 bond deals later, roughly 10 years, here we are refinancing those original bonds. So I wanted to make it a point to be here and answer any questions anyone you may have, but also inform not only you that already know this, but also the public. I'm glad there's a nice audience here from a publicity standpoint, to make sure everyone knows that, this commission, this group of commissioners here and your administrative staff, just said thank you to your taxpayers from what they allowed you to do in 2009 and 2010 by refinancing these bonds and saving over $2 million for this county. What that's ultimately going to do is possibly, shorten the life of this debt by upwards of 7 years. That additional pool of money that's going to build over time is going to be collected on your behalf and then kind of reserve or escrow to a point in time when you can use that money to eventually pay the debt off. The original maturity date was roughly 2042. All things equal and considered, hopefully 2035 is the date when we write that final check. Obviously, there are a couple other ways and means that you could use this money for new projects and so forth, but again, with the intent of paying off the debt that was originally approved in 2010, that would be that opportunity to do that. So I wanted to go back in time for a little bit here. If you recall, it was around this time last year when I provided the county, the commissioners, with that annual disclosure report and all that information. Essentially everything but your DNA was in that report. Everything from your EAV to your tax rate to your socioeconomic information, everything. And at that time, it was Dave who pulled me aside and said, hey John, let's, can we, look at refinancing those original bonds? And if we can, what would the estimated savings be, right? And so that, Max, you alluded to, this started out with, kind of minimal savings, so to speak, of roughly $200,000 to $300,000. But as the spring went on and as the summer progressed, interest rates really played in your favor. The stars really aligned in this equation better than they have, I think, in any bond deal I've ever done. We had started this process with roughly $200,000 to $300,000 in interest savings, ended up at $2 million. But I think it's important to note also in that in August, when we determined, you guys determined as a board that you wanted to proceed with this, that it was thought that possibly we could improve these savings by establishing a credit rating for this county. Something that Dave and Angie and Max and Bob are very instrumental in getting done for this county.
Forgive me, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, no problem. Very strong, results led from that. As you guys are all aware, the county came out with an A+ credit rating. You're one of 14 counties in this state that are rated by S&P, and you've got a very strong investment grade credit rating. Okay, so that's something to be very proud of. For those of you that were here in 2009 and 2010, the county's finances look a little different, back then than they do now. Okay, large in part, due to how you guys have run this county. Angie over here, I don't know what her salary is. Okay, I guess I can look it up. It's public information, but I can tell you she's not getting paid enough. The plug for you, okay? She was very kind of hesitant at the beginning of doing this, right? I mean, she has got a lot on her plate, let alone, me coming in and saying, hey, you got to do this and do that. But we got through it. You learned a lot. You became a bond expert, I think. With a lot of other individuals in the background, working very hard to get this done. But again, back to that credit rating, that's going to stay with you guys. Keep it. Be very proud of it. It's something to be very proud of. There's a chance it could go up. There's also a chance it could go down. Okay. But again, back to my point of, kind of Dave bringing that to my attention, can the county get rated? Yes, it can get rated. Okay, what do we got to do to get rated? And that's where the work started to happen. And I think, and I can, quantify for you guys that, by getting that credit rating, you save probably an additional $300,000 to $400,000 by having that. Okay, versus non-rated, which is where you were back in 2010. So that $1.5 million that we started with or wanted to go for in August turned into $2 million in a month. So, that in effect was kind of the summary I wanted to provide you guys with. I knew you all knew that already, but again, it's nice to kind of go back to day one and how we got here. It did take roughly a year to put together. Again, going back to the original presentation I made this time last year, but The interest rate on the bonds went from 5.69 to 3.28. Okay, we didn't quite cut it in half. We came pretty damn close though. And we closed on the bond issue October 10th. That's when all the funds were transferred. We officially paid off them old bonds, and you've got new payment schedules. You're going to save about $90,000 to $95,000 per year, over the next 21, 22 years, which again is that $2 million figure we get to. So, so again, I'd like to thank Angie, Dave, Max, all of you guys for your hard work. Tyler, when he was, as your state's attorney, very instrumental, getting all the way back to 2010. Tyler was very instrumental in getting all of this done statutorily, and up to speed, and making sure all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. So, does anyone have any questions for me at all?
I don't, but I do want to commend Angie, Angela, Lee, everybody. I'm the only one here that was on the board just right after we got in this building. And I believe the board has done a lot of things in the last 7, 8, 10 years. Some things that were not very much appreciated by certain people. But I think we've made some good decisions. I'm more proud, I won't live long enough to see the tax go away, 20 some odd years. My kids will enjoy that, but the fact this A+ rating, I think speaks highly of this board, the previous boards in the last few years. But again, we've made some good decisions, some good hires, and that's why we're where we are. And I'll, say that till the day I die. But appreciate it. Appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, you're welcome. We're glad to be a part of it. Like I said, this one's got a little bit of sentimental value to me. It was my first baby, right? And here I am 10 years later doing it again for you. So thank you for the opportunity to do it, the trust you put in us to get it done.
John, you mentioned the one thing we all need to be aware of, though, this is a savings for the citizens.
Right.
This helps eliminate that 1% sales tax that was put on years ago. So while it benefits everybody, but really the citizens, not necessarily the courthouse and
Absolutely.
the facilities here.
Yeah. I mean, that was, you said it, I think a year ago today, right? What better way to say thank you to our taxpayers than refinancing these bonds? They're the ones paying for it, the sales taxes. So, kudos to you guys. So I will be back in a few months, giving that annual disclosure report again. At that time, there will be nothing to talk about as far as refinancing, okay? So it'll be short and sweet. Unless rates go to zero, we'll be looking at refinancing again. But if they go to zero, we probably got bigger things to worry about. But with that being said, I will get on my 6-hour trip north, and thank you guys again for allowing me to be here.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
John, I just want to say thank you too. Like you said, when you started this process, I was very hesitant, and also didn't know a whole lot about it, so it made me nervous. And for a really long time, I didn't want to learn about it. So until I finally had to, and you held our hand the whole way, answered questions immediately, took phone calls, emails, prepped me for bond calls, and made sure that we were completely comfortable. So I greatly appreciate you and your company.
You're an expert now. You don't need me 10 years from now.
I don't know about that.
All right. Well, thanks again. We'll see you guys in a few months, okay?
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, John. Safe travels.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the resolution to transfer 2019 budget appropriations. Long story short here, what we are, and again, kind of goes with this last topic. We have, from our budget that we set for this year, there's some areas we're over budget, some areas we're under budget. Long story short, what this amounts to is moving money around. There's some things on this list that are totally uncontrollable. We just have to estimate when we start the year. good example of that, Scott's jail bill. Have no idea what it's gonna be. Unfortunately, this year, and again, back to several meetings ago, there's circumstances out of everybody's control that caused this, not to mention crime. And it's considerably higher. The coroner's budget, for instance, he went over because of the number of autopsies that he had to do. Again, that's all uncontrollable. We just have to estimate and go off previous numbers. Again, fortunately, Angie has worked diligently in coming up with money that we're moving around, which we're allowed to do, from accounts, basically, stop me if I'm explaining this wrong, that have extra money in it to accounts that over budget, is what it amounts to. We are having to move some money out of contingency, and again, to the fact of us getting an A+ rating, I'll tout that again. We have been able to do some unpopular decisions, but with several counties around us, if you've not noticed, Jackson County, Williamson County, Perry County, just to name a few that are having financial difficulties. I'm not saying we're loaded with money, don't misunderstand me if I'm wanting to raise, but with good management and again, making tough decisions, we're able to do this and keep our budget where it was set. So, you want to add anything to that, Amy?
No, I think you explained it good. The only thing that I would add is that all the office holders, I'd like to commend them for staying within their budgets. It was difficult to come out when we're thinking our jail bill is going to be $125,000, $150,000 over budget, and at the end of the year when we're doing budgets, we may be looking for $5,000. So to try to come up with 125 to 150 is very difficult. So I just commend the office holders, everyone, besides for the stuff that you mentioned that we can't control. The coroner can't control how many autopsies he's going to have to do, and we had to buy fuel for the generator. Well, we don't buy that every year. So the detention jail bill, the juvenile detention jail bill, I mean, the way we used to do it, we would budget a lot of money in it to make sure it didn't go over, but then that just held up money from being spent elsewhere. So a couple years ago, we decided, no, let's lower the budget and we'll keep money in contingencies. And if it goes over, then we'll move that money down there. So it was a little difficult to find it, but because the office holders have been so good and not been going over their budget, I was able to work with them and take some money out of there, and it's all going to come together. So even with this unknown that we didn't know about, it's going to work out for this year.
Again, I'll say that too. I do appreciate the office holders, everyone that watches this type of thing. We've had a good working relationship, and just proud of the fact that we're able to do this. Don't like doing it, but glad we could. So, hopefully next year will be better.
And just to add in there, I mean, to come up with the money for the jail bill, I mean, we're taking money from the commissioner's budget, human resource budget, treasurers, assessors, county clerk, state's attorney, animal control, communications. All of those lines were under budget and able to give money to cover the jail bill. And then I had talked to Scott, and we kind of left his budget as is for now because, he's got a big budget and a lot of stuff, factors. And so then closer to the end of the year, it looks like Scott's going to have money left over in his budget too. So if we need that extra, right now we're moving 125. If we need the extra 20,000 or so, Scott's budget's probably going to have it to be able to give. So everybody has done a great job.
I just say, just real quick, she has done a very good job on this, and she's put it together in a way that satisfies our audit requirements.
Yes.
Too, so.
Yeah, there's a lot goes into this, a lot more than just balancing the checkbook. So It's all gotta meet the auditor's requirements. So anyway, I'll make a motion for the resolution to transfer 2019 budget appropriations.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, the county road name change process. We're going to discuss this a little bit. I'm not sure that we'll vote on this today, but we've had requests in the past to change the name of a road. We've got requests for 2 pending now. That, as far as I'm concerned, a little silly, but anyway. Again, this is something that, whether you realize it or not, costs the county money. We gotta buy new signs, we gotta get it fixed with 911, sheriff's office. I mean, there's more to it than just going out and sticking a sign in your yard. It does cost money. So we decided to put together a legal process on this, which basically amounts to the fact that somebody wants the name of the road changed, they're gonna pay for it, instead of the county putting out the money. Now, having said that, I don't think Daniel's looked at this yet, but I think you had some concerns the way it was written to start with. I don't know if you did or not.
I just talked to Crystal about it this morning a little bit, yeah, and I would agree with her on some of that. It would have to be actually in circumstances why we would change it to begin with. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, there have to be a good reason.
Well, you know, and again, I guess that's up to the board, whether we figure it's a good reason or not. That part I agree with. I think what we're looking at here, though, is a process, if we decide to agree with it, to put in place that the people have to follow. So I guess what I'm asking you, having read this, is there something in here that you don't like or is going to cause trouble for 911 or whoever?
The only thing, this was written very well, and I want to thank Wendy for taking the time to do that. It was on my list to do, and I hadn't made it to that yet. So thank her and thank Lee for letting her take the time to do that. A couple things that I think maybe we could add to it. I want to rename it their last name, and from an emergency response standpoint, it gets very confusing. At one point in time, the commissioner, and I don't know that it was a written policy, Bobby may remember if anything was ever written, but there had to be 2 residents starting a third prior to someone being able to name a lane or a driveway. Through the years, I know there has been exceptions for one reason or another, but when people start naming their driveways and wanting to change them constantly, it's going to be very confusing for our responders. So that's the only thing that I had to add to it for consideration.
Well, I personally think maybe that would fall under, if the board decides that it's a necessary change, just because they want to. And I guess that's kind of where we're coming at on this particular instance. I don't think it's a necessary change. So that's why I wanted something in place where if we do pass it, to prove that the name change, we haven't yet, that you're gonna pay for it. That's my main concern. I want it to be smooth for you guys. And again, I'm assuming we have her costs
Yes.
figured in this and so forth.
Yes, the way we have it written up, first we have this written as the procedure for public and private unincorporated roads in Union County under our jurisdiction and maintenance. So if it's a road that's in any municipality whatsoever, they have to contact that municipality, obviously. And then this procedure is not for any unnamed roads within the county. So if a road doesn't have a name, this is not the process for it. So that was the intention. And then the way it's set up is that they would fill out this petition to describe why they want the road name changed. They also have to get everyone who lives on the road they have to list their name and address and get their signature, and that person has to mark whether they agree or disagree with changing the road name. And then the way it's written right now, we are asking for a $125 non-refundable filing fee. And none of the costs in here are to make any profit. It's just to cover our costs. So with that $125, I think I talked to Crystal. She thinks it was about an hour of her time to do that. So I figured out, based on her salary and everything that it's also going to have to go to the assessor. It's going to be the treasurer. The county clerk's going to accept it. I'm going to have to review it. So it's probably a little low, but not too bad with the time that it's going to take us. And then at that point, then it would come to the board to make at that point, then Kevin would tell us how many signs need for the road. So depending how long it is, how many residents, how many cross streets, everything, he would decide that. And then the cost, I talked to Kevin, so the cost for the sign and his manpower for assembling the sign is about $200 each sign. So then they would have to pay $200 for the first sign and $200 for each additional sign. And that's not up to them how many signs, that's up to Kevin. So then we would collect that money from them and then bring it to the board, and then you guys would decide yes or no whether you're going to change it. If you decided no, we would return back the sign fee because we didn't need it. But the original fee, where it requires Kevin to go out there and assess the road, make sure it's ours. Crystal will look through her system, look what name they're wanting to change it to, make sure it's not already used. The county clerk to take the application, the treasurer to take the money, all that. We're putting all that work in no matter whether the road gets changed or not. So that's why I had this written up to be non-refundable, the first amount. After listening to you guys, if you want something in there that we can say, I don't know how we'd word it, we'd have to work together, but if we want something in there to say, there needs to be a valid reason for this name change, not just because you want your road name changed, we can work to try to add something in there. I would hate for someone to come pay the $125 if we have no intention of changing the name of their road. We're not trying to get their money. We're just trying to cover our costs. So I would like to be able to spell out to people what's a valid reason for having the name of your road changed and what's not, so that they don't waste their money. However, and I don't know, maybe what is a valid reason to need the road changed? Because like you said, our emergency crews, a lot of them know the area. They know the road. If we change the name, it's going to take them some getting used to. The post office knows the addresses. That's going to take, so we wouldn't want to change it unless it was a really good reason. But I can't think of a good reason. Do you?
Political correctness would be a good reason.
Something like that, like if we had a road named bad in the county.
County Road had a business to go to that road, and it was like inside Bickford, Diamond Bell purchased it, Diamond Bell wanted that road sign changed, and they changed it for business purposes and businesses.
Well, I think then maybe we ought to relook at this a little bit.
Okay.
And put something like that in here to start with, because again, I agree, I don't want to take somebody's money, and we have no intent. And that's why I want to get this right and get it voted on before the present one that we have asking for to make a decision.
So let me add.
And I think this needs to be presented to that person.
Right.
And if you still want to pursue this, then we'll vote on it.
So let me ask you this, so that I know how to draft that part of it. That we have two requests right now. We have, one of the requests is because it was their last name, that it is not their last name any longer. Is that a valid reason? The other one is, it's a general name of a road, and only him and his family live on the road, so he would like to change it to their family's last name. Is that a valid reason? They're willing to pay for it, so it doesn't cost anything to the county, but do we want to get into that habit of well, I'm the only one that lives on the road, so I want my road named after me.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't want it misconstrued that just because you agreed to pay for it, that we're gonna do it.
Right.
That's not the case. And I'm not sure, I can't speak for anybody here, both these requests, I'm not sure those are valid reasons. I'll just put it out there. So,
I mean, maybe instead of stating reasons you can, come up with criteria to fill out the application and pay the money. You know, there has to be two starting a third. It has to, you have to, here's the criteria you have to meet. I still can't promise you're gonna do it, but you at least have to meet this.
you guys work on that a little bit. We'll table this right now and come back and revisit it and, make a decision from there.
One more, you had stated that was to change. What if someone comes in and wants to name their road? Like it's not being changed, they're currently addressed off of 146 West, but I want to name my driveway now.
We probably need a process for that. So
Can we incorporate it all together, or do you want two separate? I don't know what the simplest,
Do like a flow chart, I mean, step one may go one way, or 4 different directions, and then it goes that way, then spirit off of that.
yeah, we can look at that. Right. The way that it was drafted here, like on number 4, it says this procedure is not for unnamed roads needing to be named. We can change that and put a process in there.
incorporate it all.
Do you have one now?
Just do one.
I don't think we have a process.
I don't think it's a written.
Written.
it was
Are
always
you
just
talking, are you talking about that, or are you talking about somebody who has a lane that wants to name it?
Yeah, like your
My
driveway.
driveway would be a perfect example. It's a State Route 146 address. If I come in and said, oh, I want that lane changed to my name or whatever, are you gonna, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That needs to be taken into consideration when you say it's an unnamed road.
Well,
Okay.
I think
So we have
several
some
things
work.
need to be looked at on that. I mean, if it's, my thinking on something like that is, are you the only one on it? Is it just your road and nobody else's? So, yeah, let's incorporate it all in one, research this a little bit more, and go from there. Okay, next on the agenda, resolution supporting continued operation of the state's attorney appellate prosecutor for fiscal year 2020. This is a housekeeping resolution that we do every year. Daniel's not here, but it mainly refers to part of his salary, right?
This is to be able to use the appellate prosecutor's office. So sometimes when we have cases and we don't handle them upstairs, we actually use the appellate prosecutors. We've actually done that fairly recently.
Yeah.
To use their office to prosecute. The one thing I would say is that the amount did go up this year. It had been at, I think it was $7,500 the last few years, and it went up to $8,000 this year, so.
I'll make a motion, resolution supporting continuing operation of the state's attorney's appellate prosecutor for fiscal year 2020. I'll second.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Toller?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Stuff like this is, whether we agree with it or not, or agree with the amount the state sets, it's just stuff that we have to do every year, this time of year, so what amounts to. Next on the agenda, approval of collective bargaining agreement between Union County and Union County Sheriff's Office and FOP. Basically, the negotiations are over. We've all agreed on everything. The raises for the next 3 years, just a lot of language in it. However, we have discovered that by reviewing this, and I think Brett's reviewing it as we speak, that some of the tables in here as far as pay are incorrect. with, what we agreed on as far as increases. They've just been misfigured, is what it amounts to. So we've got two options here. We can go ahead and approve this contract, with the stipulation that the tables be corrected and everybody agrees to it, or we can table it and do nothing. I feel like we ought to go ahead and approve this, with that stipulation. Just simply not keep prolonging these guys getting their back pay and so forth, that's from the contract, and wait on that. I mean, that has nothing to do with the tables, it does, but we know how to figure it, so, whatever you guys say, so. Motion approved. With the stipulation that the tables are corrected. Yes. Is that right? Is that
Yes,
what it-
yeah, the percentages are listed right in here.
Right, percentages are right, so we know
It's
how to
just the
figure it.
actual table. I
The
think
table.
what he did some figures wrong in here when he was doing it, so they're working on correcting that.
I'll second.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller.
I agree with what you did, but I have to abstain because I have somebody.
I understand.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Yes.
On that note, we are still in negotiations with the highway department. That's the only one we got left. Hopefully it will be done here shortly. Last thing on the agenda, is approval for a raffle license application by Tiffany Busby. Again, this is just standard procedure. This is for a fundraiser to be held December 20th of this year in Union County. I need a motion to approve this. She was paid her fee and filled out the form as she's supposed to. I'll say.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould, or excuse me, Commissioner Toller, Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould. I was right, Gould, when
I guess I approved it twice.
you did.
Anything else, guys? We have nothing for executive session, right? Probably will next meeting, I'm assuming, possibly. Any other business?
I've got something real quick, if that's all right. My office is, on November 4th, which is a Monday, we will be not accepting, recordings as of 11 o'clock. I believe that day we'll shut down recordings. We are going through with a new program for our recording. Thanks to you guys with that as well, but we're revamping all the recording in the office, and so that switchover is happening that day, and so Tuesday at 8 o'clock we'll be going live with the new program. Lots of good things happening with that. We'll be able to accept e-recordings now. We'll be putting in a MyDeck, which will actually benefit Tammy's office as well, with all the information shared over to her. And also we'll be able to now, people can do title searches and stuff off of our website. They can get on and look for any land records and things that we've already got backed up digitally. They'll be on the website, so we'll be able to actually start making money on those as well too. So we get a little revenue income from that as well. Some other one other new thing that we got thrown in for free with this deal was that probably in January we'll be doing a program, Apex, which allows people to fill out marriage license online. So we get a lot of people come down from all over the state or out of state that get married at the wineries or anywhere else, they can actually go ahead online, fill out their application for marriage. So then we can hand them the marriage certificate as soon as they come and verify that's who they are. That's a 20, 30-minute process that we have to do. They can do it all online. It speeds up that process as well. So there's one other county right now in the whole state doing it. It just went live actually this week. We'll be the second county offering that. So there's a lot of new improved things that we're going through with the recording and vital record side from our office. So, but we'll pick up reporting back on the 5th. I've sent letters out to pretty much everybody that's going to be dealing with that, but if anybody has a recording, I'm sorry, we have to take off the afternoon on that one, but we'll be pausing for them, but we'll get it recorded the next day, I promise. So we're excited to offer this new and improved technology for the county, so.
Good deal. Appreciate that. Another step forward. Anybody else? Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.